There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Nan Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the fifth
Oh,
dimension
shit,
of
sorry.
Twilight Zone podcast.
False.
I am your host, Nick. The person you hear, of course, is Triv, who is making herself into a Buddhist. She has 4 arms now, or maybe she's an octopus. I don't know. You do 8 arms.
I can only do 4 right now.
We're back. We're back, of course, to talk the Twilight Zone. Of course, Rod Serling's famous TV series that did things with certain people and certain drivers, and people die. Some people travel back in time 30 years to see their family, that type of thing. So today we're going to talk an episode that probably precludes like last week's episode. We're gonna see where it's gonna head, but it's not what I would call peak Twilight Zone. It's kind of it is what it is. So we'll find it. We'll find out where we yeah, top 10.
Oh, man.
Right below.
Are we gonna have
Christianity.
trouble with the countdown here, gents? Because I will smack a bitch if y'all get too crazy.
I don't
Top 10
know.
on the second page.
But that joke just messed with my Templeton. So.
Good.
I have not done anything to your Templeton, sir.
So yeah. So before we begin, we're on audio feeds like Anchor and iTunes and Google Play and Amazon Music. But we're back. We're back again. We have some fun co-hosts with us, and that of course is Jacob, who is the eyeball of this group. He sees everything, and he will focus on life. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm really tired of people.
Me neither.
No, anyways,
You're really
what's going
setting
on,
this
Jacob?
up.
I know.
Damn.
I don't have any.
Not
I don't have any
much.
jokes tonight.
Focusing on life and seeing all.
I know. I've fallen from grace as a co-host or a host.
You're good. Would you stop it, you dork?
Anyways, how you doing, Jacob? How's Jeff? How's Jurassic Park? How's life? How you
Just
doing?
good. Well, life finds a way.
Yeah.
Oh, it actually says life finds a way on it. That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm good. It's all good. Just
Yeah.
chilling, doing my thing, getting ready for my stuff I'm going to do tomorrow, and watching some Twilight Zone, and here to talk about this fantastical episode.
Oh yeah. It's a winner.
It's a humdinger.
It is a humdinger. Good use of words.
All right. Speaking of humdinger words, Triv, you're here too. How you doing? How's life? Did you find a way?
I like to hope I did, but at present I cannot honestly answer that in any answer other than fish. Is the answer fish, or perhaps 42?
Sure.
42 fish.
Yeah, that's possible.
You just gotta think. You gotta think for
Dolphins.
all the fish.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks and all for all the fish.
Is Earth in trouble? Do you need
Possibly.
a blanket?
I
Earth's
do.
been in trouble.
Towel? Yes, I need a towel.
Towel. Is Alan
Needs every
Rickman?
towel.
Is Alan Rickman available?
I wish.
Ooh.
I don't feel like digging him up.
Dig him up. We'll just go back in time. We'll just take the premise of this episode and go back in time and revisit Alan Rickman as he was doing the
But
voice of
did
whatever robot that was.
Did he go over not Marvin? What, Martin? No. What the hell was his name?
I don't know. You're the
robot?
Yeah, the robot. Was it
Galaxy, whatever it is.
Was it?
Yeah, he was
Marvin?
the
I don't
robot. He was the
No,
depressed robot.
I know the character, but I'm thinking Marvin the Martian. But is it Marvin the robot?
No,
I had to
it's
look
not
this
Marvin.
up. What is
I
this?
think so. No, I
history
can't remember. And I've read all those books.
I have too.
Guide
I can't
to-
remember.
What's
like,
the name of the book?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Galaxy.
I can
Yeah.
never remember.
It's okay.
Oh my god, there's a lot of words in this. I don't know. Douglas, I was looking up Hitchhiker's Guide, and there's like a 6,000 page diatribe about
Oh,
hitchhikers,
sure.
and there's not
I was
characters.
gonna say, I remember Zephod Beeblebrox. I just can't remember the name of the damn, sad robot.
Who's the robot in Hitchhikers?
There's a much easier way to this.
IMDb. To
Marvin.
IMDb.
Marvin is called Marvin the Paranoid Android.
I
I
was
guess it is
right.
Marvin.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Woohoo.
Whoops.
Yeah.
I didn't think it
Don't
was
forget to bring a
Marvin.
towel.
Hell yeah, bitches.
Never forget your towel.
We should probably get into the actual episode, though, gents.
I don't
This
want
is
to talk
more
about the
interesting.
episode.
Why don't we talk
We
about-
want to talk about hitchhikers.
We
We're
have to
going
talk about it a little bit. People are showing up specifically to hear us talk about this.
Are
Are
they?
you
though?
sure about that?
I mean,
I think I actually should edit out the actual episode and just put in all the crazy outtakes that we put a
I'm
lot of
not
work
opposed
into.
to that. I mean,
Oh
Let's-
god,
I
you
mean,
should-
I
let's
could just
start
go
talking
up-
about porn.
hours.
I could just go porn.
I mean, you do that anyway, so
porn.
Good with
it's not unique. You need to do unique stuff.
Unique New York, unique New York, unique New York,
Oh my
unique
God.
New York.
All right, fine. Let's talk about this episode. This episode is fine. The end. Where do we rank this? Number 45. Good. No, I'm kidding.
Damn.
We are on episode 45. By the way, it's crazy how
Damn.
fast. Like we're almost at episode 50. It's crazy. We're almost a year into this podcast, which is even crazier to think about. But today we're talking about The Trouble with Templeton, which is season 2, episode 9, directed by Buzz Kulik, written by E. Jack Newman.
Buzz Killick.
Buzz Kulik.
That's a-
Yeah, Buzz Kulik. Yeah, Buzz Kulik.
a great name.
I know,
Killington.
right? Like E. Jack Newman. E. Jack Newman.
Newman.
Production code 1733649, original air date December 9th, 1960. I'm starting to wonder if Christmas holiday season, Rod Serling and crew just took a break. Like, we'll write the simplest scripts and the stupidest scripts in December and just kind of run with it. But the episode stars Brian Aherne, Pippa Scott, Sidney Pollack, Dave Wilcox, and King Calder. Love King Calder. That's a great name.
So is Will Cox.
So you go for the low hanging fruit. I go, hey, you know what sounds good? King Calder. And Trev's like, I want that King Cox.
No, I want that Will
Cox.
Cox.
Yeah, Wilcox.
Not King Cox.
It's actually David Willock.
And the King Cox.
Exactly.
That low hanging King Cock.
Yeah. Hey, at least I'm honest.
Yeah, at least you're honest. Then we'll go with that. So, Trouble with Templeton. This is an episode that's really weird.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not what I would call the most uplifting. It's a very depressing episode, but I don't think this is structured very well, to be fairly honest. I think the way the story plays out is it's the one thing that Twilight Zone is very good at is giving us a story in 24 minutes that has a beginning, middle, and end, and does it kind of in a very structured sense. It makes sense. I don't think any of the stuff that is in the middle of this episode, and we'll talk about it, makes any sense whatsoever. I know what they're going for, but like the way it ends, and it just, I don't know. We'll talk about it. Do you guys remember this episode at all? Do you remember anything about it? Because this is a very, like, what I would call low grade Twilight Zone episode. Probably not a lot of people remember this at all.
Nope.
I remembered it when it got towards the end. I remembered watching it at some point on a marathon, but like from the name and from like the first, up to the 22-minute mark, I had no idea.
Isn't that, do you find that, I know, Jacob, you say, a lot of these episodes, it's been a while since you watched them, but do you think it's a problem when an episode like this is just not rememberable, is not anything special? Like, I don't know. What's that? You say
Yep. I mean, there's been
even
plenty of
after watching
episodes I didn't remember right out the gate, but maybe after watching it, I was like, vaguely remember seeing this. I don't remember anything about
Yeah.
it, but I remember vaguely seeing it at some point. This one, don't remember shit. I mean, so much
Yeah,
so that I
it's
wonder if I
unremarkable.
missed a DVD when I rented the set from Netflix all those years ago, back when you had discs sent to you.
like it's funny too, because I can remember, let's say, seasons 1 through 10 pretty well of The Simpsons, but like this episode, like the rest of them, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I saw that at one point. I don't know anymore. But it's just weird how like you could have 3 great episodes and then just like 2 meandering episodes and then go back to a great episode, and just like you're sitting here going, really? This is I don't know. Like I said, 36 episodes, 32 episodes in a season. You're always going to have a few clunkers, but
This one feels like, if you look at like
so
shows like
bland.
Walking Dead, well, it feels like a
Yeah.
filler episode. Like, look at Walking Dead. There are and we've had this conversation. There are those
Well,
episodes
Lost
like
did
those.
too.
Yeah, but you have those amazing episodes that define what the series is, and then you have like that one episode where it's like, where the hell did this come from? Like, did they feel the need to have something in between? What the
But
hell
with
is
The Walking
this?
Dead, you have season 1. It's like, wow, and then you have everything else.
Yeah.
It's just like, why is this here?
Yeah, that's this episode because like it starts out with like Templeton in his room getting his tie, and he sees his wife, his much
Yeah,
younger wife
second
out
wife,
flirting
yeah.
with the it says in Wikipedia flirting with a gigolo. I like that. By the
Yeah,
pool.
that dude's
That's
banging
all.
your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't even a
He doesn't
question of
care.
that. Yeah.
And he
I just
don't
like
give a
how he
shit.
just doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He's like, I think that's his butler or whatever he's talking to, and the butler's like, he's like reminiscing about like his wife Laura and just this whole idea of just like, I don't really care. Do what you need to do, and then he talks about going to be like his new play and stuff that he's going to work on, and he's
takes
going
his
to go
Viagra.
there. Yeah, takes
Yeah.
his Viagra. Maybe that's what he's missing. He's missing maybe that middle act is his Viagra. I don't know.
Well, that's what he says.
but-
He says, until this, stops working, then she just won't care about me at all. I'm like, what is that? Is that a little blue pill with a V on it?
Well, it's the wrong shape though. It's not triangular.
Okay, so we learn a little bit about Templeton. His name's Booth. That's all we really learned. We learned that he very much remembering his wife. He's very depressed. He's very sad
dead
and
wife.
lonely.
Yep,
Yeah, his
dead
dead wife. I should say, not his wife that's banging the gigolo, but he basically goes to the theater to rehearse first rehearsal, and that's when Sidney Pollack's character comes up, and he's playing the director, and the
Baby
director's
Pollack.
kind of an asshole.
Yeah, he bitch slaps him basically.
Yeah. This is where we met Sid Sperry. He's played by King Calder, and he's financing this play, and Booth is of course the one performing and stuff like that. He's the thespian as he comes off in this episode, and I don't
But
know.
he's not like a bad guy. Like he doesn't come off like a dick. Like he's not
Who,
like
Bo-
the dude.
No, he
Booth.
just comes off a guy that just has been through a lot in his life, and
Yeah.
he's very
He
depressed.
got the time
and-
wrong.
Yeah, he's got the time wrong and stuff like that, and the world has beaten him down since he's been without his wife and stuff like that, and it's fine. Like actually, up to this moment until we get really close to the act break, I wasn't hating this episode. It's when we get to that middle act that it feels like the episode just completely falls apart, like under its buckles under its own weight of what it's trying to do.
I actually felt sorry for him at that point.
Yeah, a
when they're
little
like
bit,
going
yeah.
off on him and talking shit about him and like clearly talking shit directly about him, and you could tell he was like, "What? I thought I was on time." And you can tell he's sincere, and the dude's just like, he's like the old guy who's like been left behind by like all the other people in the cast are like younger, and he's just kind of like there because he has prestige, but nobody really respects him, even though they should because he's been in the game for a long time.
That's the funny part is you sit here and watch this, and then after Cindy Pollock's character yells at him, he runs out because I guess if you've ever been yelled at, or you're very what's that word called, meek. I guess you're very meek. I guess he's kind of meek in a lot of respects. Now I think about it, he runs out.
Night.
Meek and
It was a night
but
meek.
But he runs out, and he runs outside, and people are clapping at him. So that's weird. And he runs in the street, and he sees older cars. So purely Nan Adams is traveling back to the past, or I guess, I don't know. He reads a sign that says 1927 and a play called The Great Seed.
But before all of that, Mr. Serling had some words for us.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he probably did. I don't remember. I think I even wrote it down that Rod Serling comes in at some point.
He came 5 minutes in is when he shows up. So
Yeah,
while
Yeah,
they're
he's
still
just
in his
later and
room.
later.
it's actually
he's just
weird
like-
because he comes in like I think the act break is about 10 minutes and he doesn't come in until about 5 minutes in.
It's right
Um,
when they leave the bedroom after he takes his Viagra.
Yeah.
That's when he steps into frame.
Do you think Rod Serling, like in the Twilight Zone world, he's just kind of sitting there waiting? He's like,
Yeah. He's like, can you get
"Are you
on with
gonna
it?
leave?
I want
Yeah,
to
you
do
gonna
my
leave
part so I
eventually?"
can take lunch.
He's actually not even smoking a cigarette in this episode too, which is kind of strange. Like he's usually
Is he
has a
not?
cigarette in his hand.
He's on the
Now he's
patch.
just kind of stiff as a board.
Yeah,
But
he's
okay.
really stressed.
Because
All right.
he's been sitting there for a while.
He says, pleased to present for your consideration Mr. Booth Templeton, serious and successful star of over 30 Broadway plays, who is not quite all right today, Yesterday and its memories is what he wants, and yesterday is what he'll get. Soon, his years and his troubles will descend on him in an avalanche. In order not to be crushed, Mr. Booth Templeton will escape from his theater and his world and make his debut on another stage in another world that we call the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, even opening narration's like,
It promises things that I don't. This like just up front, this episode kind of left me feeling a certain way, but like I don't even really feel like up front we get like there's a lot promised, but I don't think that they deliver as much.
You want to know one thing they delivered on though?
What's that? Boobs?
This one was unfortunately no. This one was not shot on video.
Yes.
oh
The
yeah, thank
first
God.
things I
That's
noticed.
that's a saving grace of this. Is like I said, if the last week's episode had been shot on film, it probably would have been a lot better episode. But yeah, that's the problem with this episode. And I did skip, unfortunately, the opening narration, but it's like he's in 1927. I think it's a stagehand or something like that. He's like, talking about his wife is at Freddie
Basically,
Hitchens.
It's at a speakeasy.
Yep, speakeasy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
speakeasy.
And then he runs off, and that's when the act break happens. But like I said, this stuff right here is fine because you think it's going to lead to something interesting. You're not really sure if it's going to lead to like time travel or it's going to lead to like something that he remembers from his past or something like that. And I was like, you know what? For this first act, it's not that bad. It's an interesting kind of way to look at your past and how you view life and like how your regrets and everything. And then the second act happens, which we'll talk about. But I mean, do you guys agree, or are you just bored at this point? Like, where did you guys feel in this first act without knowing what was coming next?
Not knowing what was, well, like you said, not knowing what was coming next, you kind of did kind of have that thing of, okay, I don't know. I kind of had that thought, okay, he's going to walk in, and being that they're talking so much about memory, she's going to turn out to be like completely different than what he remembers. She's going to be, either super snobby, or she's going to be like complete, just nothing of what he loved, because he had like those moments in his mind and he caught her in a moment.
Glasses type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And not to say that she was bad, but just, she wasn't going to be like what he remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. I thought that the first half of the episode was fine. I mean, I was okay. Where are we going? I mean, it wasn't like amazing, but it was fine. It was normal, average Twilight Zone. It really depended on what was going to happen. When he got back in the 30s, or the 20s, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I figured it was going to be something like he was going to go back, and I didn't think she was going to be a dick, but I thought like he was going to go back and see her, and I don't know, maybe get some new lease on life or stay there or something like that. I didn't know, but yeah, up to the halfway point when he goes back in time, it's like, okay, where are we going from here?
Right.
This is cool. I mean, I'm fine with it.
No,
What's
agreed. I mean,
next?
it was an open book, which was nice because you don't always get that. Sometimes you get this is the way that it's going, this is what's going to happen, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see like how when Rod Serling passes off his stories, how they kind of arc differently than when he writes something, because there's something about the cadence that Rod Serling creates in his stories that you don't get from like the other writers like E. Jack Newman or something like that. And I think he wrote the Lateness of the Hour. There's something it's hard to explain, but it's just the way it's written just doesn't feel like anything that Rod Serling would ever put together. And I know he has a hand in a lot of the stuff that's written and stuff like that, but it just, I don't know. We'll talk about the second act. This isn't gonna be a very long episode to talk about, but this guy's like running across the street to Freddie Iachina's speakeasy, which at first maybe I guess 1927 you're thinking of bootlegging and stuff like that, so I didn't really put that together until Freddie opens the door and lets him in, and of course Templeton's like excited to see him and stuff like that. And it's cool to like because they have at least a decent budget for this episode, like the world that is speakeasy is a lot of fun. But when you get into the speakeasy, when he sees Laura and he sees his who's the other guy's name?
It's his friend, I think.
Yeah,
who cares?
Bonnie Pfluger.
His name was
the other guy. His other wife is fucking. I don't mean
Charles.
Charles. Yeah,
Oh, sorry, no,
he looked like a
Barney.
Charles.
Barney. Yeah, Barney. Sorry.
He looks more like a Charles. Doesn't go Charles.
His real name was Charles. His stage name was
Charles
Barney.
seems like the name of somebody your wife's cheating on you with in 1927.
Yeah. They did go all out for the speakeasy
Charles.
though. Like there was a lot of character to it. It had a lot of cool elements. That's a big set too, relatively speaking.
Right. This is where the problems start coming into effect. He walks in there, he sees his wife, he starts talking to her. She seems really disinterested. She's like, "Have fun, let's have a steak, let's dance." And his friend comes over, his her
It's
sugar
juicy.
daddy, or yes, the guy on the side is juice.
The
And
steak. The steak is the Kansas City. It's juicy. It's so juicy. She goes on. She gets kind of creepy. She's like, "Have some of the steak. Have some of the steak, baby. It's so juicy."
man.
Doesn't have a roofie in it, I swear.
But that's the problem. Like when she's talking, and you can see that there's something off, and the rose tinted glasses with her and stuff like that. Maybe this is how she really was. But none of this was interesting at all to me personally. None of it felt unique or exciting or had any like real charisma to it. It just felt like this guy is seeing how the world really was, or how it is to, a guy that's lonely, and like it's supposed to change his personality. And I don't know.
Why do you think that he saw her that way, or saw her
'Cause,
in his memory that way, as opposed to how she was?
I mean, if you think about it, if you go back and think about your life, like when you were a kid and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but you always talk about how we had it good when we were younger. But if you go back and actually, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You go back and actually go. Well, that's my point. Like some people go back, oh yeah, you had so much better in the 80s and 90s or whatever. I'm like, if you go back without the rose tinted glasses, or you go back and like like your favorite movie or something like that, you go back and watch it, it's not as good as you remember it. It's terrible, actually. The 90s and 80s had their problems and stuff like that. And
Every era does, and that's the thing.
People don't want to see it that way.
No,
it's like
that is true.
yeah,
that is true. When I was looking at this, I almost took it as you have those memories of like those really awesome moments, but you catch someone, any of us on a bad day, or an off day, or just a random day. You might see things that from a different perspective, from that outside of it, that you may not see things that you like, but that's all of us. We can't all have a smiley face on all the time. We're not, even though our cores are that's creepy, please stop. The cores of who we are don't change, but we deal with situations that you have a bad day or whatever it might be. And the thing about time travel, if you wanted to look at it from a realistic perspective, is you don't know what you're going to come down into.
I thought, I don't know, maybe it was a reflection of who he was. Maybe he remembers it that way because he wasn't really involved. It seems like she was off doing her own thing all the time, and he was so focused on his career, he didn't even notice her and what was going on with her. So she was kind of like not happy, but she wasn't like just outwardly in his face doing these things. And he just had his trophy wife or whatever who provided what he wanted at the time. So he thought, oh, everything's perfect. But now, he's not that guy anymore. He seems like, yeah, I do this job now because it's just what I always do. But back then he was probably like really into it. He was the big Booth Templeton Broadway star. And now he's not. So he has the different mindset. So coming into it, it is a rose tinted glasses thing. I mean, he comes into it and he remembers it that way because he wasn't around. He wasn't there. He was doing his thing. And he's saying, oh shit, this is how you really were.
Right. The women didn't, the women that he attracts didn't change. He did.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting if you think about it. But she's like fanning herself with a script, which is really kind of a foreshadow for the end, and it's really convenient. And he finally like tries to get her to leave, and she won't do it, and she wants to be a flapper or whatever and dance the night away, which is what young people did back in that, but any young person does. They want to go out and have fun and party or whatever they want to do. And he just finally gives up and leaves, and all of a sudden they stop doing what they're doing, and everything goes black to black, like his memory's fading away or something like that.
Or a play. when a
Yeah,
scene
yeah,
ends.
exactly. But did you guys find that like good at all? I mean, did you find that like it was getting to a point where it's just like, what? Like it doesn't really it's so quick and so jarring that it starts to kind of uninform the whole entire episode, which, like I said, about seeing things from a different perspective when you're younger than when you're older. And it's just, I don't know. I never felt like that was ever doing its job
Well,
properly.
part of it is right after that. If you go a little bit further before we talk about that, to where he goes
Mhm.
back inside the studio or the wherever he's at, back to this time, and he finds a script that has like it tells what's going to happen next and all this, and that's when he's
Yeah.
like, it's all scripted or whatever. I guess I was wondering, what was the show trying to say? Was it all scripted? Was it fake to get him in line? Was it? I mean,
Was it
his wife was
Viagra?
there,
Like
so
his
there was some,
Viagra?
yeah, Viagra induced hallucination. May have been that. But like, why did he really go back in time? I mean, that was his wife, unless it was a lookalike or something. Was it all because when he, like you said, when he left the room, it like, fade to black. Everybody stopped, like at the end of a scene for a play or something, and I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what the show was trying to say or the story was trying to say there, because it didn't make a lot of sense. And it's the Twilight Zone. It doesn't have to make sense, but there has to be a certain, or there can be a level of mystique to it. But I feel like there has to be a certain level of sense within the world they've created. And I don't know, man, because okay, if it was all scripted, how did they get his wife who's dead and all these younger people that he knows? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? That's probably the thing about the episode that really perplexed me the most.
I would agree. You could look at it a couple different ways. If it is a very straightforward type of thing, like what was the episode that had a very straightforward ending that was recent? Was it not the Nick of Time? Or yeah, what was the Nick of Time? Like where it was just,
Oh yeah, yeah.
It wasn't right. It wasn't from that perspective, it wasn't like all kinds of crazy. It was just, random answers like a horoscope type of a thing. You could look at it that way and go, okay, they went through this. I mean, I think the episode is trying to imply that they set up this massive illusion with people that he knew, and maybe like being that he thought he was back in time, which I'm not sure why your head would automatically go there. He kind of, yeah, exactly. He kind of like superimposed his memories of those people over top of the people that were there, kind of. Because it is, I mean, even in the guide, it's implied that the people they're acting are doing an acting role. Like the way that they describe like his wife, like Pippa Scott, when it starts to fade out, you see her kind of drop away. Like they describe it as, she goes from being all happy and giddy to being very sad, and about the fact that she had to be rude and all that stuff, which I'm not sure. I didn't get that.
Or are they saying that his life everything around him always was an act?
No, just for that one bit. Like they set that up to make him realize that, hey, don't look back, look ahead. That going back, what it was something like, we always talk about going back. Well, there's a reason why you shouldn't go back, is basically what they were trying to say, but it wasn't that strong of a message.
And it seems like if that's what they did, they were depending on a whole lot of things, leaving a lot of things to chance.
Yeah, it didn't really.
They didn't really stick anything.
No, it was just a random series of things. Like, life wasn't necessarily worth living for him, but how did seeing his wife be kind of rude and shit, like, I mean, I'm sure that'd probably bitch slap you out of like, oh, I miss old times, but how does that help move you forward? Because ultimately, I do think this episode was trying to end on a positive.
Yeah. My main problem with this episode is it's not clear, it's not precise, it's trying to give you a message that doesn't make any sense, and when it does make sense, it's like, well, you've kind of ruined your chance to make sense, and you're giving us a whole bunch of you're trying to make us feel bad for this character, but you're not giving us enough meat on the bone to do that. And you're just sitting there like racking your brain with like, okay, so he is a depressed guy who goes back, somehow finds himself transported back to 1927, and you have this really interesting idea and concept to introduce, and then you just sit there and do nothing with it. Like, it's cool that he sees his wife and his good friend, but it's just like, you spend like 5 minutes on this whole segment when you should spend 10 minutes on this whole segment. It just doesn't feel enough there, and then it has to conclude in 24 minutes, and it's not good script writing. It really isn't. There's nothing,
No.
Even when he goes back, it's like you have a script of everything that happens. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you're not giving us any context whatsoever, and I think that's what the main problem is the context. It's just, it doesn't feel.
Why is there a script? Why is the script there?
Yeah.
Why are the people fade to black? What or something? Give us a thread to pull on, and there's just none.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, this thing happened. It's like if they had done all that, and then in the end, we had caught something that kind of at least somewhat explained it, or like led us down a path that where we could explain it. But I'm just having a hard time explaining why that fucking happened. And it's hard to decipher the message from something I can't even explain what the exactly happened in any, even a vague manner.
Yeah.
I could just tell what I saw, but what I saw didn't make any fucking sense whatsoever.
Do you guys think that they were trying to aim for, and I guess it's hard for us to kind of say it, but like I think to, like parents and grandparents that are older, you look back on your life and you reminisce and you say, oh gosh, I miss this person, and oh, they're the greatest people in the world. Do you think it would mean more to someone like that even given this, like the weird way that this is laid out, that they would understand it better based on that? Because there is a certain way of the execution of this that's really precise, but I have no idea what it's trying to go for. Like, I'm with you. I don't know, but
is
it something we're missing?
Yeah, we're definitely missing something, but I don't think it's our fault. I think that they did not convey their message well enough, and they just stuff happened, but we don't really get any even half-assed explanation as to why. So we're just like, okay, that's the total wet noodle. I mean, like, the first half was fine, but there was just zero payoff to it all.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. I mean, it's just that killed it.
Yeah. And like, how does this moment in 1927 really get his luster back, his charisma back? Like, what is, like, she was shitty to him, and the guy was shitty to him, and they're all laughing at him. How is he all of a sudden, I'm going to stand up for myself instead of being meek? It just doesn't make any fucking sense, and it pisses me off a little bit, actually, because it's like you have this interesting setup, and then you just completely go right off the cliff, and that's
guess
what he's
maybe
doing.
It put like his previous life in perspective. He had been like sitting there all this time saying to himself, oh, like the good old days, things used to be so good. Now he's realized they weren't so good. So maybe it makes him want to try and do something with the here and now, because he thought he had this, fruitful life, but now he's found out not so much. So now he's like, well,
yeah, I mean, that's possible. It
now,
just, I don't know.
That's
it
a
feels
stretch,
like,
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way it's set up, it doesn't work that well with that.
So,
yeah, it's unfortunate. It's like I said, like we said, Booth comes back to the stage and he stands up for himself, and he tells Spear, he's like, you had to come back when we're ready to go. And he tells Sidney Pollack's character, I'm ready, and you're right that first rehearsal everybody should be there. And then they kind of go to the table to rehearse, and that's the end of the episode. And I'm just like, oh god,
fuck,
what's next week's episode? Yeah. And before we actually finish out the episode, let's do the closing narration before I forget.
Mr. Booth Templeton, who shared with most human beings the hunger to recapture the past moments, the ones that soften with the years. But in his case, the characters of his past blocked him out and sent him back to his own time, which is where we find him now. Mr. Booth Templeton, who had a round-trip ticket into the Twilight Zone.
I had a thought, and I don't know, and this is, again, kind of like tossing a stone at a wall and going, okay, is it right, or is it just going to break the wall? You know how like in those old movies, when you're trying to get the wild animal to go back into the woods, and you're like, go away, we don't want you, we don't love you, like, that whole line of thinking. Do you think that that's maybe what they were going for with this? Like, no one here wants you, we don't want you thinking about us. Maybe that's what they were going for.
Maybe. I mean, it's hard to say, because it doesn't give you any indication of what direction they were going. Because me, myself, I look at it and I see it as just kind of a realizing how things really were, and his whole life outlook has just changed now due to that. But there's not really anything saying that either. I don't really know, man. There's just nothing. This second half of the episode ruined it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
just,
liked last week's better than this.
The big
at
person to
this
ask
point,
on that is going to be Nick.
This
Oh,
one
yeah.
looked more interesting. I mean, it had better shots and stuff because they shot it on film, but I was not interested in this story one bit. The only reason I was interested in the first half was wondering what was going to happen in the second. And once nothing happened in the second, then all my interest from the first one dissolved as well. I was just kind of like, well, this episode just is a bust.
yeah,
I mean, it
it's
was acted well.
Yeah. I will say
looked
the
good.
set the sets looked really nice.
Technically, like from a technical perspective, it was made well, it's acted well. Just story, it's all narrative. The story was just like, I can't say it wasn't there. There's a story there, but it's not a story you give a shit about because nothing really happens. Nothing of nothing that's explained to a point to where you can look at it and gather anything from it.
I will say this about this. When I finished watching it, I didn't feel anything. And it was
Yeah.
one of those things where it wasn't bad, it wasn't good. It was just kind of
Meh.
look at the list and it's like, eh.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I'm like, even watching this right before we started, I'm just like, cool. I guess this is an episode. And you even said, like, before even I watched it and Jacob watched it, like, this isn't really that great of an episode, and it's unfortunate. So
Yeah. But again, like the technical aspects, there was a lot of good about it. It just where it needed it, it just lacked.
But yeah, I mean, overall, this episode sucks. We're just gonna put it out there. I'm just gonna say it.
I mean, I don't even think it sucks so much. It just it's a, like Jake said, it's I hate to
nothing burger
with anything of this stuff, like anything Twilight Zone related, I hate to call it sucky for the most part or like a nothing burger, because we've said 90% of these episodes are better than 90% of other TV out there. It's just yeah, it's true. But it's nothing there's nothing to this episode. It doesn't do what the script needs to do to get it from point A to B. It kind of stops at like point A point, 2 and calls it a day.
Look, it's like I said, like we agreed earlier, technically it's not like what was the worst, the Fever?
Yeah.
Technical perspective, that one was even bad. I mean, that was just bad all around.
Yeah.
But this one, like from a technical perspective, it's well acted. Everybody does fine. Everything's good. It looks great. All this and that. It just narratively sucks. And unfortunately, when this is a narrative-driven show, so when it comes to if you have a shit narrative, then yeah, I gotta kind of agree with Nick and say that just kind of.
I understand.
You can have all the greatest looking stuff in the world, but if you have a shit narrative, that's like ground zero right there. And if it's shit narrative, you got a shit episode. I mean,
I know. I hate.
Is it as bad as the Fever? I don't know, man, because narrative's most important, and the one here is just like non-existent. It's just nothing at the end. I was just like, that's just nothing. I mean, I get it. It's kind of like it's like the English Patient. I've used this example a lot. The English Patient's like this lauded great film, and I'm sure it is to some, but I've tried watching that, and I like highbrow cinema and stuff like that. I've tried watching that fucking movie, and it is just so fucking boring. It looks great, has great acting, like everything it's got all kinds of money on the screen. It looks fantastic, but Jesus Christ, it's just the most boring nothing of a story ever. And so for me, it sucks. I hate to say that because it's got, all this great stuff going on, just like this episode. But like narratively, if the narrative's not there, to me, it sucks.
Yeah.
Just
no,
sucks.
I get it. I hate to call anything Twilight Zone sucks just because there's that sense of like, it's like, I understand what you're saying. It's like saying James Cameron, like, oh my God, this movie sucks. It's not, it's a different kind of thing, but I understand. You're right. This one
bad stuff, but yeah,
no, but you know what I mean. Like it's lacking in areas that does make it suck. So yeah, it sucks.
I mean, they got 165 episodes.
No, I know.
Seinfeld has some shitty episodes, so I mean, it's gonna happen unfortunately.
But
it's true, very true.
It is bafflingly. Yeah, there's a lot of L's in that word.
Yes.
bad. I have to say bad. And I understand what you mean. I hesitate to say bad because there's a lot of quality in the episode, but the narrative is just
Shit.
really bad. It's shockingly nothing. And it's just, why did I feel like I wasted 24 minutes of my time because just nothing happens. It's like they do all these things for something to happen, for you to get a setup. Like there's a lot of setup and there's just never no payoff.
Yeah.
Or there's never a payoff. It's just stuff happens and you're left wondering, what the fuck? And it's not like an ambiguity. Like ambiguity is cool. And especially with the Twilight Zone, you get ambiguous episodes and endings. But even with ambiguity, you have to have something there. Good ambiguity is when you leave something, maybe you don't explain it all the way, but you put something out there so people could say, oh, maybe it's this thread or it's that thread, or it could be this or that or the other. This is just, I don't know. Shit happened. We don't know why. It just did. There's not any idea as to why.
You watched it like 24 minutes. I watched it twice trying to figure out like something.
That's a problem. You have to
I
watch
know.
this shit
It's not
twice.
there.
I know,
Yeah,
exactly. And
problem.
that's the thing. I couldn't find anything. So I
mean, and everything every thread that is there for you to tug on goes nowhere and makes no fucking, it ends with no sense whatsoever. And like that whole thing with like them all stopping and it like being a play or whatever, like at the speakeasy, that could have been a neat idea if they'd gone somewhere with it, but it doesn't. They don't go anywhere meaningful or anywhere for it to make sense. Their whole message is lost because their narrative is just more or less not there.
It's unfortunate. It really is. It could have been so much better than what we got. With that said, unremarkable episode. We'll kind of leave it at that. But
there is trouble with Templeton.
There's definitely that's the other
There's
thing.
a lot
Why
of trouble
with Templeton. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me.
It really doesn't.
Terrible title.
I'm all for
anyways.
alliteration, but that sucked.
But with that said, we'll head over to the Twilight Zone list, the rankings that is the greatest thing ever since sliced bread. There is no trouble in this list whatsoever because we are the greatest ever to come up with a list. And I personally did not steal this list from anybody or anyone. I think this is worse than 4 of Us Are Dying. Like legit. I think this is one of the worst episodes I've ever seen. I agree with you guys. This is worse than last week's episode.
Holy shit. I think I'm gonna faint.
Because last week's episode at least had an interesting concept. This just didn't have anything.
It had a coherent story. I mean, you may not like the story, but it was coherent.
Yeah.
You knew what was happening. Let's see.
When I say this is worse than 4 of Us Are Dying, that's a bad statement for me.
No Dutch angles.
Yeah, this is worse than 16mm Shrine.
Well, 16mm Shrine is above that, so
I'm kind of on board with that. I don't
go for it.
Man,
I'm not gonna fight you.
I'm gonna take one further and say I at least understood what the fuck was going on in the fever.
Oh damn!
I mean, the fever was terribly made. with the 4 of Us, I mean, with the fever, I at least understood what was going on. It had its technical issues, yeah, probably just products of its time. But really, the story in the fever was better. The story had something to say.
Yeah, it
was badly executed. And most of that was technical issues, and it was just kind of cheesy. But the story, you have guy who's totally against like gambling and all that, and says it's of the devil's this or that or the other, and he ends up getting caught up in it to the point to where he thinks or is attacked by a psychotic gambling machine. This one, I don't know. If somebody said, "Tell me what that's about," I don't fucking know. Dude takes Viagra and goes into a Viagra-induced hallucination. I mean, I don't really know what the fuck this episode was about. And I'm sure there's somebody out there who would be like, you just didn't get it. And it's got this, that, and yet. No, I don't know. You should be able to pick up on what the fucking shit's about just by watching the episode. And I don't know anybody who could do that because this one just is not coherent. And in my opinion, when it comes to storytelling, regardless of what the medium, when you're telling a story, the number one thing should be the fucking story. This ain't it. I didn't walking into this, but as I look at the list and we talked, I think this is the worst episode so far.
Wow, can you believe he's defending the fever? The bigger question that I have...
Perchance to Dream, I'm defending that Think of that. I didn't even
Holy
take it there.
shit. Well, if you did, you'd have to put it above a lot of really good episodes. So
yeah. And I really dislike Perchance to Dream. Maybe not as
No
much as
way.
Fever, but because it's so high, I may quite possibly dislike it more than the Fever, only because it's so high, and I've had to battle it for so long. But no, this is. I think this is the worst. Even our worst episodes, the story. Even the four of us were dying. Its story, I understood what was happening. It was all over the damn place, and it was kind of like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But this really doesn't make any sense. Like that one, there was things you like, why would that happen? That doesn't make any sense. Why would he do that? This one, you're like, I don't even know what he just did. I don't know what's happening. I don't know why or what happened.
I will say, after reading the companion, because there's not a ton of trivia on this, like the only real trivia piece per se is the fact that the pool from the very beginning was also used in the bewitching pool, which appears in the last episode. Oh my god. No, that's Jezebel. But I went looking at the companion just to see, what, if anything, I could pull out of it to try and pull some meaning. And the way that they talk, there's a lot of meaning that is behind everything. But like you say, like we've kind of said, there is no connection to that. Like what they intended versus what came out was like night and day.
It's like a fucking David Lynch episode.
That's what I was gonna say. It's got all this high art meaning, but it doesn't come through to anyone other than maybe just them, or granted, maybe it's a generational thing, but I don't even think it's that. It's
like Andy Kaufman comedy. It's only funny to him because he knows the punchline. Nobody else knows it.
Right.
I mean, it's not funny if nobody knows. It doesn't make sense if nobody else knows this bit of information. That's what I felt like this whole time in this episode. I was like, I feel like did I miss a scene? I'm missing something here. A key piece of info that I just don't have.
Yeah, it's bad.
It'd be like if you watched Eye of the Beholder, but the part where they reveal that everybody else looks like a fucking pig monster was totally taken out.
Yeah, right.
So she just took her bandages off and looked beautiful like everybody else, and she freaks out and runs around, and they want to send her off. But you never saw what the other people look like. You'd be like, what the fuck is going on here? That's what I felt like here. Like there's just this key piece of information I didn't have, and it's not in there.
What if they added Benny Hill music? Would that have made it better?
I mean, that always makes everything better.
That is true.
I may have knocked it up a notch or two, but that's it.
Are we putting this at 45?
I think it works. I mean, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Dutch Angles would have saved this. Dutch Angles saves everything. Can you imagine me at a Dutch angle? Like, look, already better.
This thing was more like a Dutch oven.
Jesus. Dork.
All right. I'm trying to find out where was the fever at? What episode was that?
44.
44.
Oh, that was.
What number? Oh, it was season 1.
That was episode 17.
2017.
Yeah. Right after the hitchhiker. Believe it or
28
not.
episodes. It was at number.
Yeah.
What it
so yeah. With that said,
dethroned.
Yeah, the fever is no longer the worst episode of the series. We didn't think that would happen, but it's happened. New number 45 is The Trouble with Templeton, the new worst episode of the Twilight Zone, which we'll see where it leads to eventually. But
man, this episode it's pissing me off more and more I think about it.
Oh shit.
Because at least the fever, we could laugh at it, say this was so bad, we run around going Franklin. This one, there ain't even nothing to make fucking fun of. This shit was just fucking boring and not shit was happening. It was just stuff.
You know what would have made this episode better?
Fuck this episode.
Wow. You know what would have made this episode better? You know, in the Saved by the Bell, when Jessie gets on the caffeine pills and she goes, I'm so excited. If Templeton's wife had like drank a beer and then started doing that would have made it better. And then they go into a Benny Hill like montage.
That would have been something to laugh at least.
Yes.
Something to talk. I mean, if you're gonna go bad, just go full bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They went full bland. You never go full bland.
All right, so new number 45 is The Trouble with Templeton. Now at the bottom, number 1 is Eye of the Beholder. Yeah, did not see that coming, but that's the whole purpose of our series, is to talk about the worst, and talk about the best.
So will there be an explosion since it's at the bottom?
Maybe. If I can find it, I'll just find another small
emoji.
explosion. Just a shit emoji. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll do what Jeremy Johns does.
Yeah. Dog shit.
So
Do our
anyways,
own. We'll
next
say this is horse shit.
this is turd in a bowl.
Yeah.
Anyway, so next week
Dumpster
is
fire, bitches. Dumpster fire.
exactly.
Hey, that's mine.
So-
That's mine.
Oh, suck it up, cupcake.
So with that said, next week's episode is, or actually I should say, that's the end of the Trouble with Templeton. It's gone. We'll never see it again. But next week's episode is one that is a lot better. I don't know. It's not the greatest episode in the world, but it's a fun episode.
Oh, it's so
It's
much
of course,
fun.
yeah,
Top
it's
10.
of course episode 10. Yeah, it's a most unusual camera, which is directed by John Rich, written by Rod Serling, stars Fred Clark, Gene Carson, Adam Williams, and Marcel Hilaria. It's a fun episode. It has a fun payout. It's just a fun episode. So we'll see where that goes. But anyways, that'll do it. That'll be our take on season 2, episode 9, The Trouble with Templeton. Triv, now that we've talked about this episode and made it our number 45, where can they find your content in number 45 and Hitchhiker's Guide, that type of thing?
42?
Cups of Uranus, 42, 63, 69, hut.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hold this
Ooh,
up until you start
42.
talking.
No,
just
that
gonna-
sounds like a plan. That is always
yeah.
the best plan. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, wait, why'd he go away? Bring him back.
Because
Bring
I
him
had
back.
2 quarters.
Bring him back.
Please stop me. Just talk. Just do some
No,
talking.
okay, fine. You can find me here on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I just uploaded Forbidden Zone, and coming up next is Samurai Cop 2, which is a collab, and it should be a wildly interesting time. Not unlike this episode. So, yeah, you can also find me on Twitter at Trivial Theater. That's all I got.
Sweet.
And I'm at 200. I'm at 927 subs. So
928.
928. Oh, am I? Okay.
Yeah.
Woo!
Jacob, you love this episode. Trouble with Templetons.
Trouble with Templetons.
Trouble with Templetons.
Trouble with shrimps?
Yeah.
Trouble with
I can't
chimps?
talk right now. If they want to like thank you for loving this episode, where can they do that at?
YouTube.
Good place.
Jacob
Small
Andrews
website,
Reviews.
easy to find.
Check me out at Jacob Andrews Reviews, where I talk about movies and movie news and stuff like that. Have a show twice a week, Wednesdays, Saturdays. I got it right this time.
Woohoo.
Nick joins me on that show called the
July.
Almost Awesome Show. And yeah, I would strongly suggest not watching this episode because it sucked balls. And hopefully the stuff on my channel does not suck balls.
Your stuff does not suck balls.
No ball
It sucks
suckage.
ass.
Except for the good, yeah. It's like that
No,
good
I
ass
can't- I
sucking.
can't-
though. Lots of
I
tossed
can't.
salad at my channel.
It possibly sucks boobs, which is good.
There's a lot of
That's new
butt
tagline.
stuff. We'll just put that way.
Butt stuff. You want to do butt stuff?
Because anal.
Boob suckage. Because anal.
So anyways, I am at Movie Emporium. That's where you can find my content in my Twitter account, in my Instagram, in my Cornhub, all that good stuff. Find us on audio feeds like Anchor and Audio Boom and Smellcast and lots of Viagra cast and
Be a
Google
great
Play and
podcast name.
Amazon Music and Cups of Uranus and yeah. So anyways, without further ado, I'm leaving, Triv's leaving, Jacob's leaving. We're going to the past to not have to watch this episode ever again. And for myself, Jacob, and Triv, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out.
See ya.
Bye.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Emporium's. God damn it.
You can do
That's
better
okay.
than
I
that.
am fucking tired.
You
of
can
this
do
shit.
it.
He said, "What's going on, everybody?"
Light a
Y'all
fire under
know-
that ass.
Do some
Quieter
jumpy
than
jacks.
Exactly. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Wait, hold on a second.
Put your arms in the air like you just don't care. Shit, hang on here. I can make
I
this
like
better.
start slapping myself.
Put your hands in the air
Woo.
like you just don't care.